Hi guys, this is Tavia Serbian today. Today is all about the ways you can take down the old Everworm in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, as I detail various strategies for taking out Shara Ishvalda. Yep, it's time to pound sand. Literally. With a little mix of water, well, a lot of water actually, and go toe to toe with Iceborne's main boss. Maybe you're trying to finish the main campaign and facing Shara for the first time. Maybe you're farming the monster for its sweet weapons like the excellent immovable Dharma Greatsword, or the extra sticky heavy bowgun, the Solemn Reflection. Regardless, I will share several strategies to help you take it down, ranging from easy to brain dead easy. I mean, no offense to Shara, but it's probably the least difficult main boss I've fought in the Monster Hunter series. At least once you figure out its patterns. Basically, Shara's moves can hit hard, but it has such an obvious wind-up that the stuff is easy to avoid. In fact, the main challenge with the Shara Ishvalda fight is getting those precious Tenderplates for crafting before it dies. That's because it can die pretty fast once you seriously go to town against it. I guess it can't be helped since it's a two-phase monster. Let's start by breaking down the first phase. By the way, in case some of you are wondering why I'm still using the Final Fantasy Kinsect in some of these footage, it's because I recorded some of this stuff during the review period, prior to the game's release, so the footage is pretty early, at least for my game. You don't even know how many times I've hunted this guy. Or girl, I'm not quite sure. I think it's my most hunted monster, and that's because I really wanted its gear. Anyway, on to Shara Ishvalda's first phase. This phase is actually pretty easy, and your main concern is to take it down as fast as you can, so you can quickly transition to phase 2. Primary weak points are the head and the chest. My recommendation is to actually start out with a light weapon for the first phase, so you can easily cause Shara to drop slinger ammo. That's because your top priority in the first phase is to wall slam Shara as soon as you can against that smoking yellowish sulfur deposit, or whatever that thing is, that you can see in one of the stage's walls. This will actually inflict damage on Shara, and also cause it to fall down to the ground for several seconds, so you can go to town on its head. The old Everworm's gonna need some Tylenol for sure, once you're done with it. You can basically flint shot Shara against that same section of the wall twice, at least before the explosive properties of said wall go away and you can't topple Shara any longer. Note that you can only flint shot Shara when it is not enraged, so just like any other monster. You can actually wall slam Shara twice before it gets mad though, provided you don't use the redirect slap too much while clutched. As such, what I personally do is stand between Shara and that yellow section of wall, and just wait for the monster to face me and start walking toward my direction. That way I can clutch it and use flint shot right away without using any redirects. Just do it quickly so Shara doesn't change directions while you're clutched. Shara's rock form is especially weak against ice and blast, which is why I love to use an ice glaive with the blast bug. Double your trouble, double your fun. As far as its moves on the first phase, you only really need to pay attention to 3 moves. One is when it plants both wings on the ground and starts to charge forward like a bulldozer. It is arguably the most dangerous move in the first phase, as it covers a large area, and it might be difficult to get out of its range, depending on your positioning as it starts, especially since Shara likes to consecutively repeat this move. Fortunately, it's pretty easy to Superman dive. Just make sure to time it right so you're not standing just as the next pass comes. The second move is when it repeatedly stabs the ground with its wings, alternating between the right and left side. You want to stay out of the front part once you see it wind up, otherwise if you're kind of stuck in the front and you can't make it to the back before it starts going down on you, just dodge toward the other wing that's not being used, and then dodge back to the other direction as it alternates from wing to wing. The third move is when it goes down periscope and turns into a sand submarine. This move isn't that dangerous per se, but I mention it because it provides a great opportunity for free damage if you park yourself behind its back and hit the nape of its now lowered neck. Everybody loves free damage, and this is actually one of those rare cases where it's okay to stand in the soft sand as long as you're right behind them. Anyway, the first phase is pretty easy, so you should be able to wrap it up in a few minutes. Once Shara starts to melt out of its rock mantle, I mean technically it's a mantle, then it's time for phase 2 of the fight. This one's pretty basic once you get the hang of it, and really it only starts getting challenging once the boss starts creating quicksand all over the place. That basically inhibits your movement and also allows him to explode the sand, causing some pretty big damage. Anyway, what you do during the second phase depends on what your goal is in fighting Shara. You just want to beat it quickly without much risk and get it over with. Maybe you want to just fight it normally. Or do you want to break its head twice for guaranteed Tenderplates for crafting? Depending on which you pick, the strategy changes and so does the challenge. Let's start with the easiest one, which is the butt cheese. Actually, that sounds nasty. Let's call it the soft tail strategy instead. Doesn't sound that much better, but is definitely preferable to butt cheese, even though we're technically gonna cheese its butt with some extra cheesy queso. This is actually the method that I taught my niece when she first fought Shara. Basically, I just wanted her to clear the fight and get it out of the way so we could do endgame stuff together. In fact, it worked so well that after the hunt, she goes, "That was way too easy for our last boss." You're welcome. So basically, the back area of Shara is one big safe spot. About the only thing that can hit you in that spot is that cheeky little water pistol it does when it looks back, and it's also one of Shara's less damaging moves. Every other attack, like the side rakes, the Shara sprinklers, and the hyper beam, actually can't hit you if you're at the monster's tail area. In fact, my main advice for hunters who lose their bearings mid-attack and feel a Shara attack is coming is, when in doubt, roll towards Shara's tail. Of course, the problem with attacking the tail is that it's not a weak point like the head and front paws. That's where the Clutch Claw comes in. Just wound that part with a heavy weapon clutch attack, or even 3 Clutch Claw swipes, followed by a light weapon clutch attack, and it will soften the entire tail and 2 back legs. That's your ticket to safely whittling away Shara's health from the safety and comfort of its back area, or buttocks. Bring a Meowcano cat when playing solo or duo, and you can reduce the monster's health even faster. Just watch out when Shara turns around to face you, which puts you back in the danger zone. When the monster does that, just head toward the tail again. I mean, what's he gonna do? Nothing, that's what. So what's the biggest downside of the soft tail method? Well, that would be the fact that your material drops won't be as good after the hunt. But it's great if it's your first time fighting Shara and you just want to get it over with. Anyway, this brings us to method number 2. This is pretty much the straight up method, and essentially guarantees that you will break both front legs, and also likely break Shara's head once. In this method, the key is to start focusing one of the front legs with your attacks until it breaks. This will cause Shara to topple over, allowing you to wail on its vulnerable head while it stares at you like some creep. Seriously, its dead fish stare will pierce your very soul. Once it stands up, focus on the other leg and break that to topple Shara a second time. After that, you can just keep attacking one of the front legs until Shara goes down. Now, hitting the front legs isn't as safe as hitting Shara's tail, or back leg, but it's still relatively safe compared to attacking Shara from the front. Attacks you'll need to watch out for include the side rake, where Shara either uses one of its wings or both to rake the ground from the side toward its body. When Shara glances toward one side, for example, that's usually a sign of either a side rake or even a water pistol attack. If it crouches while looking straight forward, it could be setting up a double-sided rake, so just start rolling toward the back. If you can't make it on time, you can even stand or roll in between one of the openings of its wings to avoid the attack. Also watch out for its sprinkler attack when it stands up, as the water jets move toward the body and can hit Shara's side as well. When it does this attack, you can still hit the legs if you softened it. Anyway, method number 2 is pretty balanced and lets you acquire most of Shara's mats, including a chance for a Tenderplate if you break the face ones. The Tenderplates aren't guaranteed, however, unless you break the head a second time, and you'll need those Tenderplates if you want to craft Shara gear, especially the weapons. Unfortunately, Shara's probably going to die before you have a chance to break the head a second time if you're using the second method. Which brings us to method number 3, which I like to call head cheese. Yeah, so in order to guarantee for sure that you break that head a second time, you'll need to exclusively attack Shara's head. Don't even touch its other parts. Just go for this big, googly-eyed mug. The problem with this, of course, is that attacking its head exposes you to danger. Remember that kill box that War Machine was talking about in Iron Man 2? Well, that's where you'll normally be attacking from, when you're attacking Shara's head. Fortunately, this is where the Clutch Claw comes into play. I actually learned this strategy from my friend Minishiro while we were reviewing the game prior to release. He was having a tough time getting the second head break before Shara died, so he decided to clutch spam the monster's head with a greatsword. So I decided to honor him with the sincerest form of flattery by imitating his strategy. Instead of using a greatsword, however, I decided to use a hammer. That's because it comes with the added bonus of knocking Shara the heck out. You don't even need to really know how to use a hammer for this strategy. Just clutch its pretty face when you see an opening, and then press triangle on the PS4, or Y on an Xbox controller. The good thing is that only a few attacks can hit you while you're clutching the head, such as the forward bite, or one of its water beam attacks. And just be careful of the hyper beam too. It can hit you, for example, on the way down of your clutch attack, but on the plus side, as long as your health is full, you should be able to survive it. By the way, if you're hunting with a palico, make sure not to equip your cat with a powerful weapon like a master rank weapon, or even an offensive gadget like the Meowcano, as this can cause Shara to die before you break the head twice. Instead, use something like a Vigor Wasp Revive or even a Choral Orchestra, and then a high rank paralysis weapon for your palico would be great, since that usually guarantees that you will at least paralyze it once during the course of the fight. Anyway, I would usually end up knocking out Shara after 5 or 6 clutch attacks to the face, and that's without any KO skills equipped. The second KO can take a bit more, about 9 clutch attacks or so. Once it's KO'd on the ground, just spam the circle button of your hammer. You can even sneak in a couple or more hits after a circle combo if you're fast enough. Also, try to get into the habit of charging your hammer with the right trigger plus circle on PS4, or B with an Xbox controller, before you clutch the face so your hammer is charged when you do the big bang attack on its downed head. Anyway, keep on clutch spamming that face and you should break the head a second time, shortly after its second KO. You'll know you've broken the head a second time because a piece falls off and it will be marked with a monster head icon on the map. You can then decide whether to carve it mid-battle when Shara has a brief opening, or just wait until you take the monster down, and then carve it after battle, but make sure you don't forget. You can also keep attacking with the hammer, or Farcaster back to camp to switch to a weapon that you're more comfortable with. While it's certainly possible to KO Shara a third time by clutch spamming the head with a hammer, I recommend attacking the 2 front legs the same way as method 2 after you've broken the head twice. This allows you to get its tender claws as well. As long as you've only been attacking the head, you should be able to break at least one of its arms before it kicks the bucket, though I personally usually end up breaking both. Otherwise, you can switch to the soft tail method for a safer approach, especially if you've had some bad luck and carded once or twice during the hunt. Speaking of carding, the main move you really need to watch out for is that Hyper Beam attack, which Shara loves to combo into. See, while Shara's moves are easy to telegraph, the great majority of them plants your butt on the ground for an extended amount of time. This sets you up for a face full of Hyper Beam while you're standing up, so just keep that in mind, as usually that's probably going to be the #1 reason why you're going to card. The other way that Shara likes to set up the Hyper Beam is after it does the Super Aerial Odama Rasengan attack. It's the attack that Shara does after digging underground, and then shows up on the opposite side of the screen to create a massive wind ball that clears out all the soft sand in the stage. Just start running toward the side while avoiding the sand, and then make sure you're moving even after you've dodged the attack, because Shara likes to follow it up with a Hyper Beam while the monster is obscured by the sand. If you see a flash of light inside the sandstorm after the giant ball of wind explodes, that's the sign that Shara is gearing up for a Hyper Beam, so keep moving. Otherwise, just Farcaster back to camp too. That works. Speaking of sand, always be wary of the soft sand that Shara creates because it makes the hunt more of a pain. Not only does it slow you down, Shara likes to cause it to explode with water jets, taking a huge chunk of your health in the process. If you're not confident about dealing with it, just play it safe until Shara digs underground and does its Odama Rasengan wind ball, which will harden the ground once again. Anyway, that's my guide to cheesing Shara Ishvalda. As always, if you have any thoughts or questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Once again, this is Tabi Asobi, and thank you for watching.